spread. So we thank the Hall of Famer, my dad, for rolling out of the rack and for joining us early this morning. Let me ask you before we go any further. Good morning, Dad. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Thom.
Thank you. I got to tell you, and I've said this about every school that turned it down. And North Carolina wasn't the only one. I thought it was kind of lame they turned down the NIT. You agree or disagree?
I could not agree with you more. I think all Hubert Davis is doing is compounding a problem that they have right now on the heels of a brutally horrible season and a poor accounting of themselves as a team trying to run plays and doing things. It was chaotic. The whole season was chaotic. And then on the heels of that, turning down the NIT, I think, is about as classless a thing as you can ever do.
Okay. We have that out of the way. Now, let's get to your bracket. You filled it out. You sent it to me last night. We just walked through half of our brackets here. Now, this is the Marty Brennaman bracket. Let's start now and take a look. You can see the screen. You have Purdue and Memphis winning. You have Duke winning. You have Louisiana over Tennessee. Would you care to quickly tell us why?
No, every one of my picks are gut reactions. I'm not into it scientifically like Paul is, and going to websites to see who was playing the best in the last month. I don't really give a damn about that. I just do it by gut instinct, and it's kind of interesting that the Final Four that I picked, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I've got three teams that a lot of people are picking to be in the Final Four. Okay. And gut feelings, not number one seeds. I have a feeling that I know there are going to be some upsets. We all know how that is. And I think that this field of teams in this particular season, there is a possibility of even more upsets than there normally are, simply because I can't remember a season where there's been greater parity in college basketball than it has been this season. Mm-hmm. So I think a Louisiana Lafayette can pull off an upset. I've got the College of Charleston winning 2 games.
Okay, hang on. We'll get to that in a second. I want to walk through this bracket. You and Paul are on the same level as that on Charleston. I'm not buying it. Let's go, Marty. You have the Big Blue led by Cal, my main man, Cal. Got it going on down there. You've got them against Kansas State. You got Michigan State, Marquette. You've got Cal and Big Blue going to the Elite Eight against Marquette before finally losing, and then the Sweet 16. And then you have
right. Thank you.
Marquette, you have Duke going to the Final Four. You are not worried about the Dukies having played in the Atlantic Coast Conference and very little competition, truth be told.
That doesn't bother me a bit, because going back to what Paul said a moment ago before you brought me on, I don't know that there's a team that's played any better over the last month or 5 weeks than Duke has played.
Yep.
They've got it all together, and so I don't feel any reluctance at all to put them in the Final Four as I did.
Well, you were the one who called the shot of Christian Laettner against Kentucky. Correct. And this year I have in my game there Duke v. Kentucky once again, with Cal running circles around John Shire and going to the Final Four. All right, let's go next. Here we go. Look on your screen. You've got Alabama, Maryland. You talked about Charleston and Virginia. You've got NC State in a win over Creighton. We'll get to that one in a minute. Then Baylor. Utah State in another upset against Arizona. But then you go Alabama, Charleston to beat Virginia. I'm going to ask you about a couple of these games in particular in a minute. You ultimately get to Baylor v. Arizona. Arizona winning, Alabama, most people feel, is the best team. I want to ask you about 2 games in particular.
All right.
What makes you think that Charleston can make it to the Sweet 16?
Well, I think San Diego State probably will overlook them because San Diego State's had a marvelous season. I think people say, well, College Charleston, they're 31-3, but they're at the College of Charleston, and I think that will be the attitude they take. I think they'll win that game in an upset. and then you want to go into the next game? I mean, them beating Virginia?
I think we lost him here for a minute. Did we
There
lose
I
him?
am.
There you are. Okay, go ahead. What were you
Yeah,
saying?
there. I said you want to go on to the Charleston, Virginia game?
Yeah. I want to go why you have Charleston. Why you? Okay, so you think they're going to beat Virginia after beating San Diego State?
Let me tell you what worries me about Virginia. We saw that a number of times during the year. I'll give them credit what credit is due. They play defense as good as anybody around. They can put on a clinic defensively. But in the event that those guards are not making their shots and they fall behind, they have a very, very difficult time coming back against somebody. If somebody, whoever that somebody is, builds up an 8 to 10 point lead, Virginia has a tough time coming back because they have if they have to get out of their set, their half court sets, then they're in deep trouble. And I just don't think Virginia is going to be able to shoot the ball as well on a consistent basis. To me, I had some guys say to me, they are a contender for the Final Four. If they make the Final Four, that'll be because of divine intervention, because I don't think they're good enough to have a run that would enable them to get to the Final Four in the tournament. And I think Charleston's a team that shoots the ball well. I know everybody wants to go back to all these mid majors and say, well, they didn't play the same schedule. I don't think that makes any difference when you get into the tournament. You get a team that's had a great year like the College of Charleston has, and they run off 31 wins in 34 games. They are very capable of doing what I think they will do in this tournament. So I have no reluctance at all to cast my lot in an upset mode, picking Charleston to win the two games that I've got them down to win.
Okay, the other game I want to ask you about in this bracket is a lot of people are high on Creighton. I mean, Paul is, and my son has Creighton going to the Final Four. I've said to Paul all year long, I think they're overrated, way overrated. For them, like I said, I might be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. You don't either. Paul doesn't. Casey doesn't. Nobody does. But you have NC State beating Creighton in the first game. Why?
NC State probably had the best pair of guards in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Again, we go back to the fact that the conference was not nearly as good as it normally is, but their guards can really play. And I just think that they're going to come in against Creighton and make shots and do heroic things that they did when they were pulling off big wins over the course of the season. And I think they'll beat Creighton. I really do.
Okay. All right, so no surprise, though. You have the top two seeds getting all the way to the final game there. Arizona's got some injury issues. Alabama, I think, without a doubt, is the best team. All right, let's go now.
Can I say something here?
Yes, please.
I would have picked Houston to win the whole thing because I think when they're healthy, they're the best team in the college basketball. Marcus Sasser is hurt. Nobody is talking about how badly that groin injury is. And when they're not talking about it, that sends up a red flag to me. And I know there's been speculation that he could be out 2 weeks. I think they rated if it's a grade 4 groin injury, he could be sidelined for 4 months. So that fact alone is a reason why I did not pick Houston to go all the way and win the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to their bracket because they're next up, right? Okay, here we go. You got Houston, and then Houston, and then Houston getting all the way to the regional final. Auburn, go ahead.
I'm a little. If I had a do-over, and I do have a do-over. Let's make sure we understand because all that stuff hadn't started yet.
Right.
But as of the moment, if I'm not going to pick them to win the national championship, which was in my heart before the Sasser injury, then I don't know why in the world I'd pick them to beat Auburn and to beat Miami before Texas gets them. I don't know why I do that.
Well, I still think without Sasser, they're better than both of those teams. But that's my opinion.
Okay.
All right, well, let's put that back up because here we go now. I mean, you've got Kent State. I think they play great basketball in the MAC. I think it's the single most underrated conference in the country in basketball. You've got Kent beating Indiana.
Yeah. Indiana, they're so up and down, and when they're down, they are really bad. And I just don't think that. I think Kent State's going to come in there with a lot of pea and vinegar and trying to uphold their feeling about the Mid American Conference when a lot of people don't have that same opinion. And I think they'll come in there and they'll play well. They'll play loose. And I think they'll beat Indiana straight up.
Okay, and then you have Iowa State over Pitt. We know Pitt, after winning last night, will be there. You have
nice
Xavier
win for
beating
Jeff Capel last
State.
night.
Yes, it was. But then you have Iowa State out of the Big 12 beating Xavier and advancing on to the Sweet 16. Why?
I don't know. I rolled the dice on that one.
Well, I don't think it's a big
I watched
roll
Xavier.
of the dice.
Huh?
I don't think it's a big roll of the dice. Iowa State was ranked in the top 10 almost a whole year long. I know they sputtered a little bit near the end, but, I mean, they're in the Big 12, best conference. I mean, they've smashed some big-time teams this year.
Well, there you go. I picked Iowa State.
Okay. All right, put that back up. So you think – all right, now let me ask you this. If you had – and you still have a hiccup here because the tournament is not started. So
right. I went 2-0 last night, by the way.
Okay, if you had to change the two teams in the regional final, you just take Houston out, pick somebody else, but you still have Texas, you believe, better than the rest of the field, right? On that part of the bracket, Texas going to the Final Four.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I like Texas. I really like Texas.
Okay.
And are we getting yet to who I picked to win the whole thing?
Yeah, we're not getting there yet because we got one more bracket to go. So just sit tight here. You're never known as a patient guy.
I've got ants in my pants, big boy.
I've known
Let's
that
go.
59 years. Nobody better than me. All right, Illinois. You have that's a flip of the coin. 8-9 game. VCU. I'm with you on this one over St. Mary's. I'm not buying St. Mary's. A lot of people are. You watch a little bit of VCU, not a lot, but you just a gut feel on that one.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know why I do. I really pay attention. You don't watch a lot of West Coast basketball over the course of a season, year in and year out, but there are certain games for me when Gonzaga plays St. Mary's. That's a game that always has great appeal for me, and I think St. Mary's. They're underrated because they're playing in the shadow of Gonzaga in that conference. They've had an outstanding year, and it's not like they haven't had good years in the past. They have. But the last number of years, because of the dominance of Gonzaga, they just overshadow them. And I really believe St. Mary's is going to beat VCU in the opening game.
All right, by the way, I misspoke. Thank you, player formerly known as Mouse Cop. The highest Iowa State got was 11th. Okay, so
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. All right, the bottom of the bracket is where I think is the most interesting bottom four or bottom half of any bracket here. I think it's the most loaded bottom half of a bracket there is in the tournament. You've got TCU, which TCU's a good team. They got a nice team now. They lost their big man. They're up and down. When they're up, they're really good. When they're down, not so good. Then Gonzaga, who's playing great, but who have they beat? Who have they beat? Then you got Boise State knocking off Northwestern. You got UCLA. For me, I think the most interesting game in this tournament might be the potential matchup, you have it and I have it, of Gonzaga against UCLA.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But you have Gonzaga winning that game over Mick Cronin's UCLA Bruins.
Yeah.
Who's Gonzaga beat?
They didn't beat anybody to speak of. Who'd they beat back in December or November?
They beat some decent. They beat Xavier, I think, back in early part of the year. But again, right, Paul?
They beat Xavier, but they beat Kentucky by 16. But in the non-conference, they lost. They got blown out by Texas, blown out by Purdue, lost by 1 to Baylor. They did beat Alabama by 10.
See, it's a hard team to read. Just like Paul said, you name the teams they got blown out by or the teams that they lost to, and then they beat Alabama by 10. So you're going to have to reason and balance out that whole sentence that Paul just said, which is a valid point. You might say, well, okay, which Gonzaga team is going to show up? Well, the team that usually shows up is a team that's going to beat your butt. And so I'm not so concerned about who they played and the conference that they play in, because I think maybe the only two teams in that conference that were of any significant merit were themselves and St. Mary's.
Yeah.
But I just think I am a big Mark Few fan. I am a huge Mark Few fan. And I just think that that's what's been their pattern in the past. I don't disagree with anything you say, but I just think I have a feeling they're going to win the whole thing, and they're going to beat UCLA.
All right,
and we'll hit Mick crying. Mick will be crying again. Mick will find some reason to cry, and blame the NCAA because they weren't a number one seed. But I think Gonzaga will beat them. Yes.
Okay, so here is your Final Four. You have Alabama v. Du Bois. You just can't get rid of that ACC stuff. You've just got to sit there and ride that train all the way to the last outpost. You got them playing against, you have Alabama, Duke, Texas, Gonzaga. You have Duke v. Gonzaga, and for the first time in Mark Few's great coaching career, Gonzaga will cut down the nets in Houston, Texas. You think Duke's going to beat Alabama? I mean, come on.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Don't ask me who my Final Four is. I can't even remember. I filled it out last night.
When I first dialed you guys up, I heard you were talking. Who cares about Tennessee? They stink.
They don't stink.
They stink.
If they weren't hurt, that's a legitimate Final Four team.
They stink. They ain't a Final Four team if they got Bill Russell playing in the middle with them. Good Lord.
You're showing your age, Dad, when you start dropping Bill Russells on us.
That's right.
If you said Shaquille O'Neal or somebody, there might be a few people watching that would agree. But you drop a Bill Russell on us.
Look him up. Look him up if they don't know who it is. Tennessee stinks. Who's your Final Four?
I'm trying to remember. I think I had Alabama. Here it is. Alabama, Cal in the Big Blue. I got Houston and UCLA. And I have Alabama beating UCLA in the national championship game, which we'll get to that, our side of the brackets in a moment. Paul, who is your Final Four? Casey, can you put them up?
Yep. This is mine. I have Alabama and Houston. I just think too many stars are aligning for Houston here. I've heard too much about Marcus Sasser, that he's going to be okay to play. They may hold him out against Northern Kentucky. I wouldn't risk him there either if I'm Houston. Maybe hold him out until Saturday. But with Nance calling his last Final Four this year, he's a Houston guy. The Final Four is in Houston. Houston has the experience. They have the NBA talent. They have they got it. They got it. And so I'm going to take Houston here.
All right. Paul, can I add a piece of advice here to you?
All right. Yes.
There's no room for sentiment here. Nobody gives a damn about where Jim Nance went to school. Nobody cared that he played on the golf team there with Fred Couples. Nobody cares that the game is in Houston. Nobody cares about that.
Well, Paul does. And I'm not going to sit here. Paul knows more about – he's forgotten more college basketball than I'll ever know. Casey, your Final Four. Casey?
Yeah, my Final Four. I got Alabama winning the whole thing. I actually have Houston, just to spoil that side of the bracket. I have them losing round 1 to NKU. I think that injury –
kidding me?
That's his alma mater. Hey, that's his alma mater. Come on. Go ahead, Casey. Who else you got in there?
And I think Texas cleans up the rest of that bracket if Houston's
There's
gone.
no room for sentiment in here. I don't care where you went to school.
No,
I used to pick against Carolina all the time.
I genuinely believe that
God.
NKU can beat them. If Seltzer is gone,
I watched them. Okay.
Or Sasser.
Seltzer,
Call it
whatever.
Seltzer.
Seltzer.
You can have
Seltzer.
a seltzer mixed with something.
But yeah, I mean, they've proven that they can potentially lose to a UC team. NKU's better than UC. I think the logic is somewhat there.
Transitive property, Marty. Dial them up. NKU is going to get it done.
You just watch.
That would be something. I would be thrilled if that happened. I just can't imagine it's going to happen.
We have a guy in the chat that says, Chad says Calipari stinks in capital letters.
Who said that?
Who in the chat
Chad
said
Waits.
that? Yeah, Chad. He said Calipari stinks.
Well, that's not very nice.
It's not very nice. And, there's some dark, as we know, when you start getting on the internet, you'll get some people that are dark. We're going on location tomorrow at Buffalo Wings and Rings. Is there any chance you'll leave the sunny confines of Goodyear, Arizona, and make it over to Buffalo Wings and Rings for our live show to kick off the tournament tomorrow?
I don't think so. No. I saw the ad and all those stars that you got showing up.
Yeah.
And so what do you all plan on doing after you get there?
Well, we're going to get over there, and we're actually doing this show live from there. We've invited a lot of people who join us on the chat and watch the show, download the show, podcast, whatever, to come over and join us if they're able, even if it's just a lunch break from work, swing on by.
Is Tracy coming?
I don't know. We've invited him to come, and so we're waiting to find out. If you were a betting man, would you bet that he would leave Bellevue, Kentucky, and make his way all the way up to Liberty Township?
He doesn't know how to get up to Liberty Township. He ain't coming.
I don't know about that.
It would be nice. Huh?
I don't know about that. He said he was going to send his double. He said he has a body double that he sends out in public a lot. But he has a standing agreement when he goes places. He said if he sent his body double out, correct me if I'm wrong, Casey Paul, on this, but I think his words were, if the body double comes out, no eye contact, please keep your head down, no handshaking, no autographs, stuff like that.
Well, you'll know whether it's a body double or not by the way he handles himself. And he really knows a lot about college basketball, too.
Well, we're about to find out, maybe. Hey, before I let you go, I was saying to these guys, it's rare to find a spring training game that, I don't know if you went last night or not. It's rare to find a spring training game where it's actually a good game. Last night was actually a good game. You had Hunter Green, Zach Greinke, good, solid, competitive game. Both of those guys pitched really well. Hunter Green looks pretty sharp so far this spring.
Well, he got hit around the first couple of times he went out, which means absolutely nothing. But I didn't go last night, but apparently I talked to some folks that saw the game and were very impressed with the way he threw. I think he struck out 7 batters, and he's definitely on schedule in terms of being ready when the season gets underway. And that's obviously the thing that they're most concerned about, because he's going to pitch opening day. Let me say this, and we saw, Amanda and I went out, we've seen a couple of games since we've been here. We're going to go see him play the Cubs tonight, weather permitting. It's raining like here right now. This kid that they just sent out yesterday, Christian Encarnacion Strand, he hit 3 balls as hard as I've ever seen a baseball player hit 3 balls in one game. He hit a 3-run home run on the first pitch in the first inning. He hit a line drive off the wall in center that didn't get any higher than maybe 12 feet. And the center fielder had no time to react other than turn around and watch it hit the wall. And then his last time up, he just missed a ball and hit a fly ball that caught on the warning track up against a fence in left center field. This kid has got a chance if he continues, and his biggest liability now is the defensive part of the game. he's got a chance because he can really hit. He's as good looking a young hitter as I cannot remember ever seeing anyone better than him on a first time look. So just remember, this kid's got a chance, and if he can improve defensively, I would not be surprised if he weren't back up with this club sometime during the season.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people wondering why they might not think about taking him to start the season if there's a chance that Votto – well, yeah, I mean, if there's a chance, and we don't know yet about Votto. He's back playing in some games. We don't know if he's going to be ready come opening day. The thing that goes against him, Encarnacion Strand, he's a right-handed batter. And on games where Stevenson doesn't catch, maybe he plays first, maybe he DHs, and maybe Will Myers comes in to play first base as another right-handed batter, so maybe that's why he's here. And by the way, Chad, who made the comment a moment ago about Cal, he says, Marty, I helped you out a number of times at AT&T. He knows that I am a really nice guy and would say so if he saw me again. He said, I sold him a phone. I'll leave the name out. He said he didn't like it at all. He said he returned it, and we had a very nice relationship dealing with a phone. So there you have it.
Well, I still doesn't answer the question about why he thinks Cal's a bad guy.
Okay. Sir Boy Wonder says Marty needs to be on the Oral Roberts train, which you're clearly not.
I see that at the bottom of the screen. Why should I be on the Oral Roberts train?
Well, I mean,
I wasn't even a fan of
Wait a minute now.
Roberts.
Hold on. You went to bat for Charleston talking about it doesn't matter their conference. They win 31 out of 34. Right. Oral Roberts, every bit as good from a record standpoint. You're just
I wasn't a fan of Oral Roberts. I'm a big Pat Kelsey fan.
Well, a lot of people should be.
Big Pat Kelsey fan.
Yes. Yes,
sir. I think the guys, well, I could go on and on about Pat Kelsey. I just think he's an outstanding coach. He's a good guy.
Yep.
He's everything that you pull for.
Yep. He is. I've met his family many, many times. Met him a couple times, but his family in town, they're the best. And, we wish him well. All right, we wish you well. We thank you for taking the time to fill out the bracket and try to dodge the rain in Arizona. It's a beautiful day here in Hamilton, Ohio. Not a cloud in the sky. Temperatures getting up to 50s, and we're counting down the days. We're 3 days away from the opener of Marymount Lacrosse Saturday. Dialed in.
Has he got his game face on?
He'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Ready to go. All right. We love you. Have a good rest of your day.
Love you too. You all take care.
All right. Be good. All right. So there you have it, boys. The Hall of Famers Final Four.